Hi guys, I'm Sam and we're Ghana bound, and today we have a very unique visitor, and he may well have a piece of technology that absolutely changes the landscape of the real estate industry in Ghana. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Henry Asenso. I am founder and CEO of KuroAfrica.com. It's Ghana's first real estate infrastructure and population analytics platform that aggregates different data together.
Fantastic. Now, when we get over to that bit, it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds. But before we do that, are you here in Ghana?
Yeah, I'm back and forth, but right now, this is where we are right now. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your plan with that? Are you actually going to come over and move to Ghana?
Yeah, so I think I've been working on the journey to coming to Ghana for the past 7 or 8 years, and one of the things that I understood really quickly is that you need to have some sort of business operations happening here. You need to be having an income here in advance of you coming.
Yes.
And I've got a family as well, so there's extra considerations around schooling, etc.
I got you.
And also we want to have the right things in place: house, car, before we come. So we're working towards it. Eventually, this is where we will be. Yeah.
So you're in that all-important pre-phase.
Yep.
Which we always say, yes.
Yep.
Building the house is amazing. It's well, it's a monumental task.
Yep.
But it's not everything.
Yep.
In actual fact, getting that cash flow,
Yep.
and especially at the beginning, getting those dollars or pounds coming
Yep.
in to settle the landscape.
Yep.
That's where you're at right now, and I got to
100%.
commend you in being so ordered in your return.
Yeah, and it's actually the spark that actually brought about Kuro Africa, because
Right.
when I was looking for investment opportunities, I wanted to have skin in the game. I wanted to have something in Ghana that was either working or sitting there, working itself like land.
Right.
But in order for me to make that decision, information was so disaggregated and all over the place, and you couldn't make kind of an informed decision based on a series of different information points.
Right.
So, for example, the main thing that came to mind when I was trying to look for things was the Pokwasi interchange.
Right.
Right? If you knew well in advance of when that was going to be finished and you bought a plot of land at that point, you would have bought it for a lot less than now that it's up.
Right.
Right? And that kind of thing is what I was looking for. So I was starting to look for information to help me make that decision better.
Exactly. It is really daunting when you first get here, or even on one of your pre-trips, and you're never quite sure if that's the right market choice. Have they doubled it? Have they
Right.
tripled it?
Right.
And so we get to Kuro.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us, in the non-technical term,
Sure.
what does it do? If I get onto your home screen, what
Yeah.
am I going to do?
So basically, Kuro is basically a dashboard or a search engine where you can search particular areas and compare prices, minimum, maximums, averages. You can make the comparison based on bedroom size, location, property type, and it will give you all the relevant information. So let's say, for example, you're looking for a place in East Legon. You type East Legon into Kuro, it will tell you the minimum, maximum, average, median prices, how many properties has it found, how many schools are in the area, what kind of attractions are there in the area. So it will come up with like ANC Mall, etc., etc. And it also gives you an idea of what kind of construction projects are happening in the area. So I know from memory that on my platform, it'll tell you about the signature apartments, for example. Right. And we've also used some census data, so it also tell you, okay, what's the distribution of building structures, what's completed and uncompleted percentage-wise, how many are kiosks, metal containers, etc. That all of that information is in there. And also, because we've been collecting data for almost just over 2 years now, we've actually got the price trends over time. So you can see how, for example, a 2 to 3 bedroom in East Legon for rent, the price has changed over time. And if you change that parameter, say 2 to 4 bedroom, it'll give you a new trend based on that new data.
Right, I got you. That's a really powerful tool. I mean, for so many ways. Like if you are thinking about moving into Ghana, that's a very good point to start at.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the ground, you can see what's actually happening locally.
Yeah.
And make a more informed
Yep.
decision when you're negotiating the price of your home.
100%. And I think in Ghana, you will typically suffer from kind of availability bias because you can only judge the market off what people tell you.
Yeah.
Unless you go through scrupulous collection and an analysis of data. Someone might tell you this area you can only buy land for X amount, but do you have the data to actually check if that's correct?
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, in Achimota, someone says, and this isn't right by the way, but someone says you can't get any land under 250k. You can use Kuro to search Achimota and see what the range of lands that are listed around, and say, okay, well, if you're saying I can only get 250k, why have I found 6 or 7 more that are at 50 or 80k?
So it will actually show you listings.
It won't show you the detail of the listings, it's the raw data. So it will say land in Achimota, price X.
That is a seriously powerful bit of equipment. So I'm taking it for granted, you're Ghanaian?
Yep.
And as a child, were you brought up here? Were you over?
Yeah, so I was born in London.
Right.
I would come like everyone else on the kind of summer trips. And then I, like many youngsters in London at the time, were always threatened as if you were bad, I'm sending you back. I got sent back around 11 for about a year and a half. And that kind of changed my whole perspective on life and really established that kind of connection with Ghana. So ever since, it's been on my mind. And then when I kind of got into my young adulthood, that's when I started actively preparing.
That is awesome. So you're a Ghanaian.
Yep.
Like myself, I got those same threats. If you're bad, you're going to go back to Ghana. Interestingly, for me, I reversed it while we was all in England. I'm saying, if you're really good, we're going on holiday to Ghana.
Yeah.
Just because, even though it was like 10 years in the making, I just wanted a positive
That's true.
association with Ghana and not this massive fear. And they're like, how bad can it be?
Yeah.
But in that time, I know you've been going and coming.
Yeah.
How has that been?
Yeah.
Each trip, let's say.
So it's been different. So what I often used to do is when I was flying into Ghana, I'd always look out the window. And what you'd find was when I was younger, like, so I'm talking about 99, early 2000s, it was like everything was spaced out, right? And there was very little light. There was dumso all the time. And so it looked like Ghana. That's what Ghana was to me when I was growing up. And you get here, the road network, the inconvenience, that was Ghana. The only time where I didn't come for a sustained period was between 2010 and 2015.
Right.
And so other than that, before that, it was pretty much every summer or maybe every other summer. And when I came from 2010 to 2015 and looked out that window, I was shocked. Because it looked as though I was living in Manchester at the time. It looked as though I was flying into Manchester.
Wow.
That's how much it had changed. It was lit up. There was all this activity around the airport. And, you know, it kind of shocked me. And even the road network that took me to school when I was in Achimota, my school was in Cantonments, I couldn't recognize where it was or where it began and where it ended anymore.
It's so different.
It's so different. So I started to realize, okay, there's things accelerating quickly, even from an infrastructure perspective, but typically that will manifest itself in opportunities across business, etc. And also, you know, I wanted to have another option in my life, and why not choose where I'm from?
Do you remember the point, or was there a point where you thought, you know what, I could do this?
I don't even know if I've had that point yet. No, I think, you know, when it came to, there was 2 points. You get those points and then you realize, no, you can't. So one of the points was when I came back. So in 2019, I realized that I was going to make a 2018 concerted effort to reorientate myself towards Ghana and Ghana activities. So I took a 6-month sabbatical from work, and I came here unpaid, and I had a list of businesses that I was just like, can this work? Yes or no? Everything from boxing promotion to property management, etc. And I settled on like short-term let management because I'd started it in the UK and it was working well, and I could see it was working in Ghana. So I was starting it, and actually I had it in my mind that actually I'm done with the UK, I'm going to stay. Then we found out my wife was pregnant. So I was like, okay, no, I'm not done with the UK. I've got to go back. Because if I didn't go back, the sabbatical, basically, I wouldn't have had access. The borders closed. I wouldn't have had access. I wouldn't have been able to go back. I didn't have my laptop, so I couldn't have worked remotely. I probably would have lost my job, etc. But thankfully, I went back a little bit earlier before the borders closed.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have missed the birth of my son. Because remember, there was a good
Yeah, there
6
was
month
a good
period
6 months, yeah.
where it was shut. And also, the business I was planning to do, the borders were shut.
Right.
So you think,
Wow.
yeah, I can do this. And it's like, nah, go reset. You
Yeah.
know? And it's okay to reset. I think sometimes there's a stigma around if you have to reset and go back. No, it's healthy to
Yeah.
do that, you
Yeah.
know. But I think the real point where I thought, yeah, I could do this from a Kuro Africa business perspective was the first time I started to pull the data together and be able to actually search it. And I was like, this is something that isn't available
Yeah.
and is important. Lock in and focus on it. So I've been working on it for 3 years now.
So that's amazing, and that's one of the most amazing things. I will ask you what you think are the most amazing things, and you know, some of the hurdles here. So what do you think some of the strengths? You've decided you're coming here. Let me know a little bit more about that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, when you there is an emotive aspect of when you come, you feel at home, you feel different, you feel well positioned, you feel well placed, and also my wife and I, when we met, we both said we want to live in Ghana eventually. How you go about that is very unique to you and your individual situation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So our situation is that actually it's not our time right now. However, what we've done is we've established businesses that keep us connected to the continent,
Right.
even though we're living and working in the UK.
Got you.
So that's an important part of our journey because it keeps us close to what's happening. I've learned more about the makeup of Ghana and Accra living in the UK than all my time spent here combined, because I've been looking at the data and analysing it, etc. So, you know, for me, what you don't, there are some intangibles that you can't kind of even, it's difficult to articulate about Ghana. So there's the sense of community, there's the sense of opportunity, there's a lot of gaps that haven't been delivered against yet. Simple things, like even if, I know restaurant businesses are plentiful here, but things like ghost kitchens, and there's so many opportunities. And I think if you are away for long enough, your barrier to entry gets higher and higher. So you need to have that connection and connectivity. And I think in the main, most people who are here and maybe came from the diaspora, they do a lot of back and forth. It's good. The grass isn't greener on either side. It's just different grass. You know, so it's what grass suits you better for what time in your life. So I think that's the strength. There's the sense of community, sense of family, because the society in the West is very much individualistic and individualism focused. So it can be quite isolating. Whereas here, you can get a lot of help with childcare and all those kind of things. So, you know, eventually we'll get here.
So there's a lot of emotion in that decision, and if I've heard you right, for you, opportunity over here, and a sense of community, and to be honest, that's a lot that drove us to come back. That's a lot that drove us to come back. I totally agree and can understand with what you're saying. It almost feels as if the price of entry is lower, and maybe, I think this is fair to say, you feel and you have a responsibility for the position of privilege that you're actually coming in at. It felt like you're you know how it is in Ghana. When you don't have, you really don't have.
100%.
So where we're coming in with a well thought through plan, it is from a position of relative privilege,
100%.
higher than maybe what we'd come from.
100%. And I think another big part of it for me is like, I feel a responsibility to Ghana. So for example, And there are other things like macro trends that are really important. There's an aging population in the West.
Yeah.
There's low birth rates in the West.
Yeah.
The inverse is in Africa.
Over here.
And we have so many diasporans all over the world who are doing excellent things, amazing things. But that brain drain outward, I'd like to brain claim it back.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because there's a lot that you could share and impart, not to come from a position of height or better than or none of that.
Yeah.
Actually, you've got a lot of understanding that maybe could help or train. And I'd like to do that myself, whether it be data and analytics, training people, those kind of things. So I feel a real kind of sense of like coming back and doing stuff, and, you know, because otherwise you leave it and you ignore it long enough, other people exploit the opportunity.
Oh, they're going to do it.
Yeah, and they're doing it.
Yeah, they're going to do it.
And I don't begrudge them for it, because if we have a sense of pride and national identity, we should be doing it anyway.
The worst thing you can do is sit abroad and do nothing, then come and complain that other groups have come here.
You can't complain.
And taken over things.
Yeah, no, you can't complain. That's the natural pattern of human behaviour. It's those who are most aware or most, risk reward. If you come, you try, something happens, you don't, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But you can still be comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that I think some people inherently have that kind of, that calling.
Yeah.
And some of them have that calling to here. But even if it's calling, make sure you do your research.
Do your research.
Make sure you take your methodical approach, because here is not easy. It's not easy. And so if you don't, and it's as expensive as the West, depending on what lifestyle you want to live.
Exactly.
So if you want to live the same lifestyle, mate, it's going to be more expensive.
Probably double.
Yeah, probably double. But if you're able to acclimatize, but you need to understand what that acclimatization looks like.
Yeah.
So you got to come and understand, okay, maybe this is where I get my food from, or, you know, there are these restaurants, fast food restaurants, but then there's this set of fast food restaurants, which is half the price for the same thing.
Yeah.
You need to know all of those kind of things, because, yeah, it can get tough here.
I don't know if it happened to you, but the longer I'm here, the more I realize there's a lot of stuff that I have to drop off.
Yeah.
And that was swimming in, let's say, salt water and now being in fresh water. There's a lot of preconceptions as well. You know, I'm a Ghanaian that was born abroad. I've got that as my base, but there was still a lot of things you need to just drop off. It's not like you're coming to Ghana and you know everything. Everything has to change. There's no da-da-da-da. Ghana will always surprise you and humble you. Humble you when you least expect it.
Yeah, and you got to be open. You got to be open to the humbling. I'm still going through that process, because naturally I've got a family, so I've got to get used to working and living here with a family, and so that will be tough in itself. So everything's a new experience. So you've just got to be open to it. But the main thing, I can't stress it enough, is to plan, because you don't want to go and leave. You've got to think about your prime earning years, and you've also got to think about the economy here, the currency here. You know, in the space of a year, you know, a plot of land in Oyarifa, or let me just say a plot of land, for example, has gone up 30-40%. But the city's also depreciated 54%.
Yeah. So where are we?
So actually, if you were earning pounds or dollars, that land has actually become cheaper for you.
We did an episode on that, and a lot of people couldn't get their head around it actually being cheaper. But you make some good points, and plan again is, you know, we can't understate that.
Yeah.
So you've used your software, and you've picked an area out.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
One question: if there's up and coming areas, can you use your?
Yeah. So what Kuro's built on 3 pillars. So the data lab is what I'm talking to you about right now, which is the searchable kind of dashboard that enables you to make those decisions and search the data. We also have insights, which is where myself and the team write articles based on what we're seeing from the data. So top 5 hotspots over the next year, top 10 infrastructure projects that will reduce traffic in Accra, all of those things. So given that information, you'll be able to make kind of a more informed decision as to, okay, we know this area is going to have this road expansion within the next year. which will reduce time into town by X amount. So actually, it's cheaper there, but I can get to downtown very quickly. Or if I wanted to do a development there, I could price it at the right point where actually you fill the gap in affordable housing with a commutable distance, that kind of thing. So it kind of helps you do those hotspots. And then the third pillar is, excuse me, is resources. So resources is a collection of professionals that are here in Ghana that can help you with the progress around whatever project you have. Architects, lawyers, estate agents. We've recently done a partnership with Garib.
Yep.
That's the kind of accredited real estate group. And so, yeah, it has the whole idea about Kuro was basically to help me make my informed decision whilst being away and planning effectively. And as I've done that, I've understood more and more about what the different things that I and others would need, and tested it with other people, and those were the core elements. The data itself, the insights from the data, if you don't want to actually go through it, some key kind of takeaways, and then the resources available to kind of make your moves.
So it really is a piece of software directed or used primarily for the diaspora, if they were in your position. And it has one, that's one use.
It's fair to say that. I think because I think the diaspora are used to similar tools in wherever they are, the Zillows, the what have you. So yeah, I would say that. I would agree with that. I think what I'm finding here is that the real estate agent population are seeing this as a prime opportunity to stay ahead of the game. So that's why Garib, the partnerships come about. But yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I mean, we find it a very useful tool within our setup, and it's very powerful. One thing I'm thinking about here is, in Ghana here, it's literally two markets. There's the city market, which we say is a local market, and there's the dollar market. Are they in your app? Or in your program, should I say? Sorry, is it non-discriminatory? Does it does the algorithm help with both, or how does it work?
So everything's priced in cities.
Right.
There is a feature that I'm building in where we have a currency converter. So you can go dollar, pound, euro, and it will tell you the prices in relation to that. But everything is priced in cities.
Okay.
What you will see typically, so there's one section that's like a map, and the map has different bubbles on the map around Ghana and Accra, what have you. And the size of the bubble indicates the average price. So the closer you get to the coast and to the airport, those bubbles get bigger. So you can see that those are the kind of the dollarized areas, what have you. But it doesn't, I think it's important to be agnostic of dollar versus city market and this is Ghana. We should be pricing everything in city. So it's a city, it's not city market only, but everything's priced in city. But all the high-end areas are on there, cantonments and what have you.
That's exactly what I mean. So the high-end stuff, okay, let's call a spade a spade. You can get a chamber and hall with an outside where you can do a charcoal burner, but that's not what a lot of the diaspora are looking for. But does that reflect in the pricings on there?
Yeah, I mean, you've got everything from 300 cities up to 170,000 cities.
Well, that's fantastic, because we do get a lot of questions as to why is property in Ghana so expensive, and it's not. It's pretty much the property that you want is very expensive,
and it's pretty much the property that you've seen. Because again, it's the availability bias. The diaspora have almost, it's not their fault, but a narrow vision. They don't have a breadth of understanding of what's available. Because you've got to think about it. I was having a discussion the other day that, there's only a small population of Ghanaians who could afford the places in the centre of town. That's correct, but even that population wouldn't live there. That population have built their houses out in the hills and whatever.
And it's taken on generally about 7 years to build it.
Yeah, that's a fair point, right? And so the people that are in the centre of town, by and large, are expats or people returning, and it's not for lengthy period unless they have a vested business interest. So I think for me, the opportunity that I see is where the road network is expanding, and those towns along that road network if you can get land in those areas and start to do your house, etc., you'll get like how a lot of the older generation did in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, bigger plots of land. We can do a nice big house if you want to, or you can do a nice development. So it's this human nature has patterns, and one of the patterns is urbanization. You saw it in London, where central London was a very small area, then it became Greater London, and you know, it happens like that. I remember when I was going to school here a long time ago, between East Legon and Spintex, where they have the underpass, they didn't have anything like that before, and they used to actually have a 40-foot container that you had to drive through to get from one side to the other, and that's how things have changed to that degree. It's really been transformational.
There's been a lot happening in a relatively short amount of time. You go back 20 years and the design of houses were very different. Outside lavatories was a thing, you know, and that's only 20, 30 years. Let's say 30 years, you know, and things change a lot, including the makeup of Ghanaian. And there is a lot of learning to do both sides, because there is an emerging market or section of the community, upper middle class, that are actually buying plenty of the homes in Yarifa Park at $215,000, and they're Ghanaians. The perception outside is that it's only returnees that are buying these places, and it's really not. The reality of it is, I'm more likely to sell to a Ghanaian, as we say, a home-based Ghanaian for most of these developments. So there is a lot of change. I say that to say that there is a lot of change, 100%. And the Ghana that our parents left is very different to what we've come back to.
Correct.
Excellent. Is there any more that you'd like to say about Kuro? And
I think ultimately the main thing about Kuro, and about even just sort of my own experience, is that when you are relocating to any place, or moving or intending to do business, it's not something that you can do with emotion at all. It's a logical, systematic study of what are the strengths, weaknesses and opportunities of the place I'm going to. So with that in mind, you know, Kuro is a great resource, but just study well, come, visit, you know, go back and forth. I've been doing it. I'm a Ghanaian. I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm still not here, but my intention is to be here. But in that 10 years, I've gathered the understanding and the insight and built a business that I can leverage, build networks, etc. Oh, one more thing. Kuro also has, as part of its resources, an events aggregator. So we pull in events from all across the globe and put it into one calendar for our members. So wherever you are, because the main thing about moving to Ghana is that you need to have a network. So wherever you are, you should be connecting with people who are interested in Africa and in business and Ghana, etc. And Kuro provides one calendar for you to have a look at that.
Fantastic. At this point, I'm going to put him on the spot and let you know that in the description box below, there will be an affiliates link that will get you money off, won't there?
Yes, there's an entry offer, there's a launch offer up until September 2023, but we'll work out something special for Ghana Bound.
As we always do. It's been really awesome speaking to you.
Pleasure,
and
likewise.
I'd definitely like to get you back on, as you're one of the guys about to make the move. And you know, follow some of your build and and your process. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, 100%. I need to learn from you guys as well and what you're doing as well.
It is about community here.
100%.
So thank you once again.
My pleasure.
So where can we get in contact with you, get our hands on the Kuro brand? And
yeah, absolutely. So the website is kuroafrica.com, KUROAFRICA, can't spell Africa wrong, .com. And then you can reach me directly, henry@kuroafrica.com. And then all the socials is Kuro Africa, lowercase, no space, on all socials. And there will be a link in the description box that will send you right there. Yep, 100%. So I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. He's been a great guest. As ever, a like would be fantastic. If you really loved it, share it with a friend. And if you don't want to miss the next one, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching today. See you in the next one. Bye.